They whispered behind closed doors, speaking your name with question marks instead of periods. They peered at you through cracked windows, curious why you weren't rising with the others, why your name wasn't in lights, why your voice hadn't echoed through halls of influence. What they didn't know, what you, perhaps, didn't even understand, was that you were hidden, not forgotten. You were being preserved, not neglected. You were being held back by divine intention, not by human error. And now the winds of change are rustling through your life, not to disturb, but to reveal. The world often judges potential by volume, loudness, noise, visibility. They think if they don't see you, then you must not be doing anything. But they don't see the roots growing beneath the soil before the flower blooms. They forget that diamonds form under pressure away from light, that pearls begin in the discomfort of oysters, that greatness, true greatness, is never made in the spotlight. It is revealed by it. Never born in front of crowds, it is carved in solitude. You have been in the workshop of destiny, where no applause is heard, where no cameras flash, where only the whispers of purpose keep you company. You see, a season of hiding is never wasted. It is an act of grace, a divine incubation, a time where your character matures to meet your destiny. Because visibility before stability is dangerous. Exposure before maturity is costly. You weren't just being hidden from others, you were being hidden for them, reserved, set apart, protected for a time when the world would not just see you, but need you. It is easy to want the crown without the weight of it, but those who rise too soon often fall just as quickly. Your delay was not denial, it was design. Because when the time is right, when the soil is ready, when your roots are deep enough to withstand the storm, then and only then will you be revealed. Not revealed with confusion, but with wisdom. Not revealed as someone still searching for validation, but as someone who has already found their worth. You've walked through valleys of doubt. You've carried burdens too heavy for your age, your stage, your size. You've had to smile through tears, perform through pain, and keep showing up in rooms where you weren't even seen. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still hoping. Still holding on to a promise you can't explain, but you feel deep in your bones, that sense, that knowing, that unshakable voice inside that says, this is not the end of my story. That voice, that's your revelation waiting to bloom. Your silence was a signal. Your waiting was preparation. And now, the moment is arriving, slowly at first, like the first rays of morning sun, like the hush before a symphony begins, like the final deep breath before you step onto the stage you were born for. The doors are creaking open, not because you pushed them, but because destiny has summoned you. You won't need to knock this time. The invitation has your name on it. But know this, when you are revealed, you must carry yourself not with pride, but with purpose. You must walk with the grace of someone who knows where they've been, someone who remembers the darkness that shaped their light. You cannot forget the loneliness that taught you to lean on love. The silence that taught you to listen, the hiding that taught you humility. These are your treasures. Carry them gently. You will be misunderstood, yes. Some will think your rise was sudden, but let them wonder, let them speculate. You don't owe explanations to those who weren't with you in the trenches. You don't need to validate your breakthrough to people who weren't present in your breaking. Your story will speak for itself. Your growth will be undeniable. Your glow will be untouchable, not because you're better, but because you're birthed from something deeper. There will be those who try to attach themselves to your visibility, who didn't care for your invisibility. But remember, you are not a trophy to be displayed, nor a prize to be possessed. You are a living testimony. You are evidence of what patience, persistence, and providence can produce. You are the result of divine timing, the kind of timing that can't be rushed, faked, or manipulated. The kind of timing that makes all things beautiful when it finally arrives. Do not shrink now that the light has found you. Do not apologize for your brilliance, your voice, your truth. Do not dim the shine you cultivated in the shadows. You've been hidden for long enough. Now it's your time to stand, to speak, to lead, to create, to shine. You do not need to compare, compete, or conform. You were not made to replicate. You were made to radiate. Not made to echo. You were made to declare. Walk into rooms with your head held high. Not because of who sees you now, but because of who saw you then, when no one else did, when no one called your name. Remember those nights. Let them ground you. Let them fuel you. Let them remind you that being hidden wasn't a punishment. It was a privilege. It gave you time to become the kind of person success wouldn't destroy. You have endured what others don't know. You have survived what others couldn't see. And now you will become what others never imagined, Not because you're lucky, but because you're ready, because you didn't give up when it was quiet, because you kept building when no one was watching, because you stayed faithful in obscurity. And faithfulness, my friend, is the soil where miracles bloom. This moment, this revealing, it's not the peak, it's the portal. It's not the end of your journey, it's the unveiling of your beginning. And the world will ask, where did you come from? And you'll smile, not with arrogance, but with understanding, because you'll know exactly where you came from. The valley, the quiet place, the hidden room, the refining fire, the sacred pause. You came from the furnace of becoming, and now you rise. Let them see the glow, but never let them forget the grace. Let them see your power, but let them feel your peace. Let them admire your results, but let them respect your process. Because this is not about fame, it's about fulfillment. This is not about applause, it's about alignment. You were hidden because you were holy. You were reserved because you were royal. You were set aside because you were set apart. So now, when the doors swing open, walk through them with reverence. When your name is called, answer with humility. When the spotlight shines, let it reflect not just your face, but your faith. This isn't just a stage, it's a sanctuary. And you are not just revealed, you are released. To change, to heal, to inspire. You are no longer waiting, you are walking. Not with noise, but with knowing. Not with desperation, but with destiny. And when they ask you how you made it, tell them the truth. Tell them you were hidden. Tell them you were held. Tell them you were prepared. Tell them it was worth every silent night, every tearful prayer, every invisible moment. Because what was hidden in you is now ready to be revealed through you. Not for ego, not for show, but for purpose, for power, for impact. You, dear soul, are the miracle they didn't see coming. The warrior born in stillness. The answer shaped in obscurity. The light that grew in the dark. And now the veil is lifting, the curtains are opening, the trumpet is sounding, and your time is here. Not because the world is finally ready for you, but because you are finally ready for the world. You don't arrive at greatness without gathering a few scars. And yours, though hidden under layers of grace and humility, tell a story louder than any introduction. You've been wounded in places no one knows about. You've questioned your worth in moments too silent for comfort. And yet you kept going. You kept breathing through disappointment. You kept moving through misunderstanding. And in the depth of that quiet endurance, a masterpiece was forming. People often mistake hiding for defeat. They assume that silence means surrender. But what they don't understand is that in your hidden season you were not sleeping, you were sowing. Every act of obedience, every whisper of hope, every time you chose to believe instead of breaking, you were planting seeds. Seeds of courage, seeds of truth, seeds of purpose. And now the harvest is coming, not because you forced it, but because you trusted the process when it made no sense. Your journey hasn't been easy, and it wasn't supposed to be. Ease does not produce excellence. Comfort doesn't birth conviction. You were stretched for a reason. You were pressed for a purpose. The weight you carried wasn't in vain. It was a workout for your soul. It built the strength you now carry with quiet dignity. It gave your voice depth. It gave your spirit dimension. It gave your heart the kind of compassion that only comes from surviving the fire and choosing not to burn out. And yes, there were moments you wanted to quit. Moments when you whispered, "Why me?" Moments when the silence became too loud and the waiting became too long. But even then, even in your doubt, you were still held, still covered, still chosen. Even your questions had a place in your story. Even your weakness was woven into the tapestry of your strength. That's the beauty of divine design. It doesn't require perfection to perform miracles. It just needs a willing soul. Now that you're rising, it may feel unfamiliar. You may be tempted to apologize for your shift. You may want to explain why it took you so long, but you owe no one an explanation for divine timing. You don't have to narrate your pain to validate your promise. The people who matter will recognize the glory without needing the backstory. They'll see the light and know it was forged in something sacred, something pure, something earned. You were never meant to blend in. That discomfort you felt in spaces where you were only half welcome, that wasn't rejection, it was revelation. It was clarity that you were called to something beyond the ordinary, that your spirit was allergic to mediocrity, that you couldn't play small because the fire inside you was never meant to be contained. You were hidden because what you carry is not common. And when you are uncommon, you require uncommon preparation. Not everyone will understand your rise. Some will say you changed. But change was the point. Evolution was the goal. You're not who you used to be, and that's not betrayal, that's growth. The people who truly love you will celebrate your transformation. The ones who only loved your comfort will fall away. And let them. They were part of the hiding, not the revealing. They were a chapter, not the whole story. As your name begins to travel, as doors open without you having to knock, remember this. It was never about being seen by man. It was always about being aligned with purpose. The applause is nice, but it doesn't define you. The visibility is rewarding, but it doesn't complete you. You were complete when you were unseen. You were whole even in your hiddenness. Because your identity was never rooted in recognition, it was rooted in calling. Let your rising be graceful. Let it be holy. Let it be filled with the same humility that carried you through the silence. Let it be drenched in gratitude, because you know what it cost to get here. You remember the tears that watered your vision, the prayers that paved your path, the nights you felt forgotten but still believed you were chosen. That is your power, not the platform but the perseverance. You will be asked how you stayed steady, how you kept faith when there was no sign, and you'll answer, not with pride but with peace. You'll say, I was hidden because I had to be, because some foundations can only be laid in solitude. Some lessons can only be learned in stillness. Some voices are sharpened in silence. I wasn't being held back. I was being held together. There is a richness in those words that only time can create, a wisdom that only waiting can shape. That's what people will feel when you speak, when you move, when you step into the spaces you were created to lead. They will feel the weight of someone who didn't rush destiny. They'll feel the integrity of someone who didn't trade their soul for speed. They'll feel the warmth of someone who knows what it means to walk through fire and come out refined, not ruined. This unveiling, it's not just about you, it's about the ones watching, the ones who are still hidden, the ones who think their silence means they've been overlooked. Your rise will be their reminder. Your breakthrough will be their blueprint. Your story will be their spark. So rise not only with confidence, but with compassion. Be the voice you needed when you were waiting. Be the light for those still in the shadows. You are not just being revealed, you are being released to restore, to inspire, to invite others into hope. You are living proof that delay is not defeat, that silence is not absence, that hiddenness is not abandonment. You are the testimony of a process that works, even when it hurts. You are what faith looks like in motion. The beauty of your story is that no one can take credit for your arrival. Not a person, not a platform, not a connection. This revealing is divine. It is orchestrated by hands unseen, shaped by love unshakable. That's why it will last. That's why it will echo. Because it's not built on trend or timing. It's built on truth. And the truth is you were always chosen, always purposed, always anointed. Even when the mirror showed you nothing but waiting and wondering, you were his idea, his design, his masterpiece in motion. And no detour, no delay, no disappointment could change that. So now, when they call your name, stand tall, not because you are perfect, but because you are ready. Ready not just to shine, but to serve. Ready not just to be known, but to be useful. Ready not just to arrive, but to build something that outlasts applause. Because legacy is louder than fame, impact is deeper than image, and purpose is greater than popularity. You don't need to scream to be heard. You don't need to fight for your place. What is yours has already been set aside. What is meant for you has already been marked with your name. And now, as the world begins to see what was always within you, hold it all with open hands. Hold it with reverence. Hold it knowing that your journey made you worthy of the weight you now carry. You were hidden for a reason. You were held back not to punish you, but to prepare you. And now, you're not just being seen. You're being sent. Sent to shift atmospheres, to shake systems, to speak life, to bring truth, to awaken those who have been sleeping through their own potential. This is your moment, not borrowed, not forced, not faked, yours. And you will walk in it fully, deeply, boldly, because hiding was never a loss, it was a launch. And this is your flight. And now, with the curtain drawn back and the lights beginning to warm your skin, you're stepping forward, slowly at first, not out of fear, but out of reverence. You understand that being revealed is not simply about being seen, it's about being ready to carry the weight of who you've become. The silence behind you wasn't a void, it was a sanctuary. A place where your voice was refined, where your spirit was mended, where your soul was realigned with purpose. And now the world will witness what was cultivated in quiet. Do not mistake this moment for an accident. This is not coincidence or luck, not a random turn of fate. This is the exact intersection where your pain met preparation, where your tears became testimony, where your waiting gave birth to wisdom. This is the unveiling of someone who didn't let bitterness bury their brilliance, of someone who walked through rejection, not with resolve. This is the introduction of the version of you that could only be shaped in the shadows. And oh, how the shadows served you. They taught you the language of perseverance. They taught you how to be content without clamor, how to walk with grace when no one was applauding, how to pour into your dreams even when the world poured doubt on you. That's why this moment is sacred, because it wasn't handed to you. It was earned in the sacred halls of discipline, in the quiet chambers of trust, in the furnace of lonely faith. There's a kind of glory that only comes after grief. A strength that is born from being stretched, bent, broken, and still rising again. You didn't just wait, you grew. You didn't just endure, you evolved. And every scar you carry is a seal of survival. Every wound is now a window. What once hurt now heals others. What once silenced you now sings from your soul. There were nights you thought the silence would never end, mornings when the fog, you looked around and saw others being celebrated while you were being overlooked. And it stung. You wondered if you were invisible, if your gifts were seen, if your prayers were heard. But little did you know, you weren't being ignored, you were being incubated, hidden in plain sight, protected in divine mystery, because had you been revealed too soon, you would have been received by people who couldn't handle the fullness of who you were becoming. So the delay? It wasn't denial, it was direction, a rerouting not to punish but to position. You weren't behind, you were being built, for impact, for legacy, for moments such as this one. And now that you stand on the edge of emergence, you do not tremble with doubt, you rise with divine assurance. You are not asking for permission anymore, you are not second-guessing your presence. You're walking boldly into spaces that once felt too big, because now you know your spirit was never too small, it was just waiting for the right season. And what a season this will be, not one of fleeting fame or surface recognition, but of deep-rooted purpose. Of real, authentic, lasting fruit, because when you've been hidden long enough, you stop performing and start embodying. You're not here to impress. You're here to express the truth that lived in you all along. You are here to show what happens when someone believes in their calling more than they believe in their circumstances. You've outgrown smallness. You've broken free from the need to be validated by voices that never understood your depth. And now you speak from a place of authority, not one handed to you, but one carved from the trenches of your experience. You don't just speak light, you've walked through darkness to carry it. You don't just offer hope, you've survived hopelessness and found a way to build a ladder out of it. And what a beautiful paradox you are, fragile yet fierce, gentle yet grounded, quiet yet powerful, because in hiding, you didn't just wait, you transformed, you turned silence into strength. Loneliness into learning, delay into destiny. You took what was meant to crush you and turned it into a platform that will now carry others. You are no longer afraid of being seen because you no longer rely on being seen to know your worth. The applause doesn't define you. The attention doesn't sustain you. You are rooted in something deeper, something unshakable. You have seen what happens when everything else is stripped away and you still choose to rise. And because of that, your rising is not fragile, it is fortified. And now, as people begin to recognize what was always within you, you will move with intention, with wisdom, with grace. You will not chase spotlight, you will walk in the light of purpose. You will not shrink to make others comfortable, you will expand with humility. Because you know what it costs to pretend, and you've chosen authenticity instead. There will be those who don't understand your rise, who will question where you came from, but they weren't there in the quiet. They didn't see the nights you sowed in tears. They didn't witness the chapters of inner wrestling, the silent sacrifices, the invisible victories, but you did. And that's all that matters, because this rise is for you, but not only for you. It's for those who still feel forgotten. It's for those who wonder if they'll ever be seen. Your story becomes their permission. Your breakthrough becomes their blueprint. No longer hidden, no longer waiting, no longer shrinking, you are revealed. And the world is better because of it. And as the days begin to unfold with this new unveiling, you will notice that the world feels different, not because it has changed, but because you have. You're no longer walking with uncertainty shadowing your every move. There's a steadiness to your steps, a rhythm to your movement, because you understand now. You were not delayed, you were being developed. The wait was never wasted, the hiding place was never a prison, it was a womb. And now what was nurtured in silence is ready to breathe in the open air. And now that you have tasted the strength of solitude and the fire of forging yourself in secret, you are not easily swayed. You are not easily shaken. People will come with opinions, with criticisms, with questions you don't owe answers to. But you won't flinch, because you remember the quiet years. You remember the times when you had to speak life into yourself. When no one clapped, but you still danced. When no one saw, but you still built. That memory is a shield now. It reminds you that you didn't rise because someone gave you a hand. You rose because you believed when everything around you said you shouldn't. You carry within you now a kind of sacred confidence, not arrogance, not ego, but assurance that what was birthed in the dark was born with purpose. You've learned to walk with grace through doors others would have run through. You've learned that timing is everything and that it's better to arrive prepared than to show up prematurely and lose what wasn't yet right. And let's talk about those who left. The ones who didn't see your value, the ones who walked away, who dismissed your dream as too far-fetched, who didn't stick around for the process. Forgive them, they were never meant to see this part of you. Their absence wasn't punishment, it was pruning. Some connections were only ever meant for the season of construction, and that's okay. Some people are only equipped to handle fragments, not fullness. But now, you're operating in fullness, in clarity, in conviction. There's a stillness in your spirit that doesn't require applause to move forward. You've learned how to be led by something greater than noise, by inner vision, by divine instruction, by quiet knowing. You've seen what happens when you try to rush the process. You've tasted the bitterness of premature exposure, and so now you move differently, with patience, with precision, with purpose. There will be moments when the old fears try to resurface, the fear of being seen and misunderstood, the fear of failure under the weight of new eyes watching. But you must remind yourself, you are not who you used to be. The version of you that doubted, that hesitated, that questioned whether they were worthy, that version didn't make it to this stage. They were refined in the fire. They were transformed in the silence. And who stands here now is someone who knows how to weather storms and still sing. The beauty of being hidden is that you learn how to hear the whispers of destiny. You learn how to sit in stillness and recognize the sound of your own heartbeat, the rhythm of your own truth. And when you finally emerge, you're not looking for noise, you're looking for alignment. You're not chasing platforms, you're pursuing purpose. You're not desperate to be known, you're determined to be real. You are not here to blend in, you are not here to repeat what's already been done. You are here to disrupt, to inspire, to awaken. You are here to bring something new to the table, something only you carry. Don't mute your magic to match what's familiar. Don't dilute your difference to make others comfortable. You were hidden so your uniqueness could be protected, not erased. You were hidden so your power could be sharpened, not silenced. And as the days pass and more begin to take notice, don't forget the place you came from. Stay rooted in the humility that shaped you. Stay grounded in the truth that kept you afloat when there was no audience, no applause, no confirmation. Because the moment you begin to depend on being seen is the moment you start losing what made you powerful in the first place. Stay true, stay kind, stay hungry, not for attention but for growth. There is still more in you, still more to discover, to develop, to deliver. Just because you've been revealed doesn't mean the process is over. It means a new chapter has begun, one that requires the same faith, the same discipline, the same courage that carried you through the hiding. So, don't be afraid of the spotlight, but don't idolize it either. Let your light shine, but let it shine from a place of depth, not desperation. Let your story be one of substance, not spectacle. Let your journey be a map for others who are still in hiding, still in waiting, still in wondering. Show them that it's worth it, that the silence is sacred, that the slow growth is still growth, that being hidden is not being forgotten, it's being formed. And one day, when someone asks you how you got here, when they marvel at your strength, your wisdom, your presence, you'll smile, because you'll know the real story. You'll know the nights you wept and still worked. You'll know the mornings you rose without motivation but still moved. You'll know the fire you had to walk through and the healing you had to fight for. You'll know that nothing about this was easy, but everything about it was necessary. And in that moment, you'll be able to say, I was hidden for a reason, and now I am revealed for a purpose. Now that you stand in the light, don't forget the darkness that shaped you. Walk with the strength of someone who survived the silence and emerged with a voice that cannot be silenced. Stand tall, not to tower over others, but to be a beacon for those still climbing, still hoping, still waiting for their moment. You were hidden, not because you were weak, but because you were sacred. And now you are revealed, not just to be seen, but to serve, to lead, to love, to lift others with the same compassion that carried you through your own wilderness. This is your time, not just to rise, but to remind the world that destiny delayed is not destiny denied. You are not late, you are right on time. So let your presence speak louder than your pain. Let your purpose roar louder than your past. Let your light shine, not in flashes, but in flames. Because the world needs what was hidden in you. And now at last, it is your turn to show them that the wait was not in vain. It was divine. You were hidden for a reason, now you are revealed for a revolution.